I'm going to do the final condition assessment on this Burgundy DSi XL, serial number WW409499917. I'm going to quickly look at my documentation that I have for this console. With the document that I keep with the motherboard, that I just have the motherboard serial number attached with. It's telling me that I replaced the charge port. I have no other notes. I usually keep notes on this little sheet of paper. Charge port replaced. Dust on top screen under lens. I did put, now that little microfiber cloth tells me that I did put screen protectors on. Where's my cloth? Here it is. So I wonder if there's a pretty egregious piece of dust, like maybe this dot right there might be it. Before I get too far in the testing, I just want to verify that, because if I need to take that piece of dust out, then I want to do that right now. Oh yeah, that's pretty bad. I don't know, I'll try and see if this will show up in camera. But why I kind of stress pieces of dust, yeah, you can kind of see it. Especially if I move it, you can see that little dot. It's actually prominent enough that it's blocking out the pixel. I can verify that it's not a dead subpixel, but it definitely looks far too small to be a subpixel. Subpixels are a little more noticeable. I might need to get out my microscope if I want to go a little closer. Now. Yep, no, it's just a speck of dust over the subpixels. Okay, now this is going to be a rather cumbersome process. So before I know that I can sometimes just take off the lens without taking off this, or without taking apart the top screen assembly, but I've pulled the adhesive out from underneath the shell too many times, and I end up having to take it apart anyway, so I might as well just do it once. I need to grab my suction cup. I shouldn't necessarily need it, but it will help me hold on to the lens without accidentally touching it, especially on the underside. Now, this is definitely not a process I recommend, for a reason that will hopefully become somewhat obvious here in a second. I don't want to stress out the camera unit, so I'm going to take this off as well. I believe this little piece of copper is for grounding. Though the way I put it back on, unless I soldered it onto this piece, I would never make a good connection. I'm just going to do that to allow so I don't crease this front-facing camera too much. I'll just go ahead and pop the Wi-Fi antenna out as well. Okay. Now, why I don't recommend this is I have to bend the screen back. And that puts quite a bit of stress on this ribbon cable. I need to take the speakers out as well. And I've been in the habit of reinforcing my ribbon cables with Kapton tape, which I think are helping. So I don't think I necessarily need to worry about it, but if these were normal ribbon cables, get a little spicy. Get these speakers out of the way. So what I need to do is peel the lens off and then reseat the screen back on. So then when I put the lens back on, it will be already set. I must have had this lens off before. It's coming off really easy. Let me just put the... Being very careful to leave that adhesive there, not touch any of it. Gently put the screen back in. Open the console up. Looks like the piece of dust is on the lens side. Grab a piece of normal Scotch tape. Just kind of being careful not to accidentally touch it. Could wear gloves, but this isn't the first time I've done this. Don't necessarily know if that got it, so I just very lightly just pressed the screen in. I didn't fully force it down, just sort of lightly placed it in so I can get it back up if I need to. Looks like there's still a piece right there. Smudge on the top corner. Don't know where that smudge came from. It could have always been there. Just sort of lightly get at it with a Q-tip. Okay, lens side looks good. Or LCD side looks good. What I might do is go at this with a Kim wipe, because I know there's sort of a smudge right here as well. That came up really easy. That's on the other side of it. Okay, there's still nothing on the lens LCD side. So gently place it back in. Okay, I never like trying to remove dust from underneath these screen lenses, especially when you're in a dusty environment. There are a couple smudges that kind of persisted, so I'm just going to hit it with a chem wipe. Grab another piece of Scotch tape. Just going across it with the Scotch tape, picking up hopefully everything. Ah, the endless game. Ooh. This stubborn spot in the middle might be a smudge. What a pain. Grab a new Q-tip. Try and get it on my... I could even point to it with my little suction cup, so I know exactly where it is. Okay, I think I got it. If I'm able to take this lens out from the front, I may just put this console back together a little bit. So I'm not having to juggle the top screen like this. What do we have there? Just another little smudge. Try not to touch the edges. The adhesive tape will grab onto the cotton swab and pull hairs off. That should be fine. Get it in the light. And this smudge appears rather persistent. Ooh, a couple big hairs got in between. Little bastards. Okay, before I continue, I'm going to put this top screen back together, since I most likely have taken off this lens before to do this exact same thing. Just kind of like what I said, so I'm not juggling two things at once. Usually if you're taking off the lens for the first time, that adhesive is pretty strong on there. So you have to sort of pull the console apart like this so you can get a fingernail or flat pry tool under to persuade the adhesive off. I've had okay success with a hairdryer, but your mileage may vary. Clean out the interior lens for the camera again. And static electricity sure is annoying. It's a little hard to say if that worked or not, or if I'm in a good enough state. I think that's pretty good. I do see a little mark right there, probably from my... Ooh, poor camera doesn't like... I do see a little mark from probably when I was hitting it with the cotton swab, but that shouldn't be visible when the console's on. So let's look, see what we got here. So I'm just looking for anything that would be covering or obscuring a subpixel, kind of like the little speck of dust was. And I think we're good. I don't see anything. Okay. Let me get the screws back on for the top screen and we can finally get to the condition assessment. I can check off the dust under the lens. That was a fun 20-minute side venture. Okay, so dust under top screen lens, donezo. So let me start filling out my paperwork here. So we have unit color Burgundy. Shell serial number WW409499917. Let me just confirm that. 9499917. Okay, software version I have not noted down. Motherboard serial number I have on my computer, but I need to confirm it inside anyway. Battery life, 5 hours flat. Nice. 5 hours is a good time. So let me take it apart. I need to look at the motherboard. I hopefully won't need that little air duster again. One of these screws has a little bit of rust on it. I'll just take a look at them. It's not this one. When I take these consoles apart, I throw all the screws in. Well, I can show you. I throw all the screws into here. So these screws come from many different consoles. Nah, it's just a little bit of damage. I can wipe it off again, but it shouldn't cause any issues. It's not stripped. Nor was it slipping, so I'm not too worried about it. And since I remember it, I'm just going to take off the water damage indicator. When I take these consoles apart and then clean them, I separate all the electronics and submerge all of these plastic pieces in hot soapy water. So as far as the shell was concerned, it was underwater, but the motherboard obviously was not. Where's my little guitar pick? There it is. There's just some tabs here on the bottom of the shell. Looks like I did a pretty good job changing out the charge port. Go me. Alright, just kind of giving it a quick little inspection. Just to make sure I didn't miss anything. All of the pins for the game card slot look nice and straight. None of them are bent, missing, out of place. The headphone and microphone jack look good. Charge port's brand new. So let me check on this motherboard serial number, make sure it matches my records. 6012. And it does. So I'm going to write that down on the paperwork. 252 06012 U0146RZ A22. I'll get this screw wiped off when I'm thinking about it. Not gonna do anything fancy. Didn't even leave a mark. Okay. Now, Nintendo from the factory puts little pieces of tape over these two small connectors, so I'm going to do the same. Okay, this is ready to go back together. That's really all I needed to do in here. Alright, let me grab my paperwork and start going through. Oh, almost forgot a screw. Probably easy to spot from the overhead, but not from my angle. So just to sort of look at the paperwork, that's sort of a checklist of items I go through just to verify that everything is working. I do need to grab these for later. Not this one. Okay. Motherboard and power board. All I'm really assessing here is, does it turn on? And reach the main menu. Yes, it does. Maybe a redundant test because I wouldn't be able to do the rest of them without it. Without the thing turning on, but what can I say? Okay, next is tactile buttons, which will be all the face buttons and the shoulder buttons. Now, what I do for this is, instead of trying to find a game that works, I have diagnostic software that I put on this R4 card. It will allow me to test all the buttons. So for, I almost kind of slipped there, I will be using Diagno SE, or Diagnose. And then go to their button tester, that right there. So I'm mainly, there are a couple problem buttons that I'm going to be pressing quite a few times, mainly the shoulder buttons and the D-pad. Those tend to be the ones that have problems. Face buttons, start and select, are usually always fine. But I'll just press them a whole bunch of times and just kind of see if the presses that I see on screen are matching up with what I'm pressing. I don't really have a specific amount of times I do this. Usually, again, the A, B, Y, X, start and select are usually always fine. So I don't really spend too much time on them. D-pad's good. Now the shoulder buttons. Now the shoulder buttons I'll kind of press all around the button, mainly around the edges of the button. But it all looks really good. Nice and responsive. Can't blame your Mario Kart loss on a bad shoulder button. Okay, those all check out. Next is the touchscreen. Now I use a different piece of homebrew software, which is, however the hell you want to pronounce that, DS Creator. So the idea with this is I'll go draw, which it will give me this entire touchscreen to draw on. And I'll go around the edges of the screen. I have a screen protector on, so it's kind of hard to get the exact edge without falling into the screen protector. And what I'm looking for is if this touchscreen has dead zones, if I do a straight line down along the edge, and I don't know, for instance, it does like that, then this portion of the touchscreen is dead for whatever reason. Touchscreen needs to be replaced. but I was able to do a full border around this just fine. I'm going to clear it and just do swirls to see if there's any erroneous inputs. I have one touchscreen on a console I need to replace where I would do a line down, and then at about right here, it zips across and does inputs over here. So it was a little hard to catch at first. I almost proved it all the way up to final testing, so I'm glad I caught it when I did. Anyway, touchscreen's good. I have no problem with it. Next is speakerphone, microphone, and headphone jack. Now I'm going to kind of combo this with also testing the SD card. I have a song loaded up onto the SD card that I will load on the DS Sound app while I'm in there. Let me grab my headphones as well. Let me turn up the speakers. I guess that's a pretty good indicator that the microphone works, but I'll just do my normal testing anyway. La 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 la. La 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 la. And based on the waveform and my beautiful singing voice, and the microphone works just fine. Going to... It's reading my SD card just fine and sees my song, so let me plug in my headphones and see if I hear it out of both earbuds. You'll just have to take my word for it on that one. Yep. Both speakers work, both headphones worked, SD card read, microphone worked. So that was kind of a good way of just knocking off a lot of different tests right there. Next is camera. Turn that down. Oh god, I'm not doing that. So you can skip the tutorial by just pressing the shoulder button. Yep, both cameras work. Charge port. Now, I don't have a charger picked out for this console. I'm probably going to do a wall charger. OEM wall charger. So for now, I'm just going to trick the wall charger that I have right here. Just still a OEM Nintendo one. Just that I have already plugged in off to the side. So what I'm going to be looking for is... Ooh. Well, looks like I need to touch up my solder job on my charge port. Neat. Here I was complimenting myself, but... So what I was doing is the way I was pressing down that charger was telling me that the charge port is not making... or the solder joints are not solid, and the way I was holding it down to make that orange light pop up was actually pressing the charge port into the motherboard. Get my solder iron on. Going to want to take out these motherboard screws. And since I have a pretty good idea of where I need the reflow, see if I can get away without having to take the whole motherboard out. I'll just replace that little piece of Kapton tape. I will take out these two ribbons, so I'm not stressing them. Might as well take out this power board ribbon too, to sort of thermally isolate it. The motherboard from the shell so I don't melt it on accident. I'll put that guitar pick there. Now I spy with my little magnifying glass. Let's go 300 degrees. And just a touch of solder to put on that terminal. Okay. Grab my probes and see what we got. Continuity through. So we should be good. Grab a little bit of rubbing alcohol. I should be able to see the charging indicator without having to plug in all those ribbons. Just to verify that we're good here. Maybe I do need that main ribbon from the power board to actually show the LEDs. That would actually make a lot of sense. I don't think there's a dedicated IC on that power board that controls those LEDs. The more you know. That's a little more like it. Oh. Okay, I'll assume that was a fluke. No, I can repeat it. So I know when I have problems like this, where it kind of cuts out when I rotate it around, that it may not just exclusively be the charge port, it could also be the fuse. So I'm just going to take some time to just kind of reflow everything in this area, maybe add a little more solder. And I know I've sometimes had problems with this component as well, EM1. The solder joints kind of crack. Be careful not to melt any of these other connectors. Because that would be most unfortunate. That'd be a lot more work and a much longer video. Ground pads on the charge port should be fine. For the hell of it, I'll just touch the charge port prongs again. Now that should be good. All right, let's try that again. Don't need to do that. The charge port shouldn't have any flux in it. That's more like it. Solid orange light. It's not blipping out when I'm sort of rotating this charger. Okay, I'm okay with that. I'll get it fully back together and do that one more time. Let me sure to get my solder iron shut back down. Get some solder on it before I do. grab a Q-tip. I'm going to wipe off these ribbon connectors, just so I don't have any hand oil on them. Might as well do this one because I was also manhandling it. And just in case you were curious, this is kind of what the area looks like. Let me grab a pick. So obviously there's the charge port, and then right downstream of it right there is what's considered F1 fuse, which is a very small surface-mounted fuse that, well, will protect the system if a surge comes through the charge port. And then there's component EM1, which can't say I know exactly what that is. I think they call it an inducer. I wouldn't know. But all of those components can, either the solder joints can crack or just dry up over time. And I know those three in particular, if you have sort of that intermittent charging, it could just be because one of those solder joints are cracked. And it could just be because the board itself is flexing, like if you were to drop the console with the charge port on, or with the charger in. Get that Kapton tape back there. All right. Get all the screws back in. 3 motherboard black, 1 silver. Interesting X mark scratch on the back of this console. All right, let's try the charge port again. Solid orange light. It's not blipping off as I rotate the cable. That is good. That passes my test. Alright, so charge port. Game card slot is next. Now this one is a little fun, I'll say. So I have an assortment of games here that I'm just going to start popping in and out of the game card slot. Some of them are a little easier to read than others. I'm not entirely sure why. They all look fine pin-wise. Some worn down a little more than others. Anything that I would at least expect retail carts to be at. So I'll start with this game, The Great Dinosaur Rescue. I'm going to slot it in normally. Pops up immediately. And then what I'm going to do is sort of put a little bit of pressure on it and just sort of jiggle it side to side and see if the card disappears from the menu. Which it doesn't. And then I'm going to give it a few good whacks. And the card doesn't disappear. Now, why I do that is because if you were to accidentally, like let's say you were playing it and you accidentally bumped the card, just maybe tapped it for instance, if that card disconnects while you're playing a game, your whole entire console will just shut off, which is a bit unfortunate, especially with games of this era where you need to be manually saving. And again, if you were to dump it like that, maybe if it was in your pocket and you hit something and you had this console on sleep, card disconnects, console turns off. So I'm doing my best to make sure I can get these consoles to a degree that where they don't do that. But that can be anything from just dirty game card slot pins or bent pins. So we'll move on to the next game, which is Crafting Mama. Do the same thing. Insert it normally. Pops up. Sort of jiggle the card side to side. Nothing. Good. I know a couple of these games coming up. I'm actually missing a couple. Oh, here they are. Make sure I get my whole test suite. Do Pampered Pets. Pops up immediately. Good. Bejeweled. Pops up immediately. Oh, whoops. Accidentally pressed the shoulder button. Good. Dog Whisperer. And these are all games that have just, they've come in with consoles. Definitely rare collector's items. SpongeBob. What they do is serve as a great test bed. Because all of my game cards are in very good shape, and I'd rather not stress out a bunch of games by doing this. But I don't care about these games. Wonder Pets. Last card. And it passes. All of the game cards without a single problem. Love to see it. Because usually what I'll have to do is try and clean those game card pins, which can sometimes take a few times. So the last test is Wi-Fi. I have to do that by connecting to a hotspot on my phone. Problem is, I'm currently using my phone as a camera. I've never seen this test fail, so I have no reason to believe it will. I'll do that after I'm done with this video here. So I need to get the software version. And then I need to go through the assessment. I thought I saw 4.4.1U somewhere. Maybe I had it on my documentation, I don't know, but because I'm going to be cleaning this console and sort of really looking at it, I need to put on some gloves. I'm also going to need to put the screw covers on. .4.1U. I don't exactly know how much these software versions even matter at this point because all software versions are exploitable. But I figured it's important to know. It's a benign piece of information. Alright, let me grab some screw covers. Get these out of the way. I do need to run one more test, actually, and I really don't want to forget it this time. I didn't forget it last time, I just had to do it off camera for a previous console. So what I need to do is test for screen burn-in, or image retention, I should call it. So what I'm going to do is hold it on this screen for about 1.5 minutes. And if this console is experiencing image retention, what will happen is when I quickly swap over to settings, if there is image retention, you'll be able to pretty clearly see the assets of the sound app in the settings app, which is not normal. It's a sign that those screens are dying. So while I wait, I can put in the screw covers, which I have a few of. I have an entire little compartment just dedicated to the Burgundy console. This console's in really good shape, so I'll try and get some screw covers that match it. I'm not too particular, though. Unless they're in really bad shape. I just need a foot and a top screen. There we go. I'll keep my little thing next to me just in case I need to grab another one. Or if I want to swap out one of the feet. So we're getting close to 1.5 minutes. Okay, let's check. Nope, I don't see anything, so I think it's good. Like one of the screens that I have, I think I still have it close by. What would happen is you could almost clearly see the DSi sound app in the background, which was very, very odd. Anyway, let's get these screw covers on. I don't do anything too fancy here. But usually when I take these screw covers off from the console, these little square pieces of double-sided tape usually come with them. And I usually just assume that I can't reuse them. But I'll give them that they're still very sticky. Good, didn't tear a hole in my glove. So what I'll do is grab a Elmer's glue. And then what I do is I'll extrude just a little, just enough to sort of make a bubble at the tip of the Elmer's glue, and then just kiss the top of these screws. It'll leave just a little bit of glue. I don't need much at all. That was maybe almost a little too much. Because if I have too much, then it'll start squeezing out the sides of the screw cover once I put it in. Perfect. Now I gotta kind of look for the side that needs to go down. When the little adhesive pad is gone, it can be just whatever side looks better. Just kind of set it in like that, sort of press it in a little. Yeah, that looks good. A little bit of extra glue right there. For the bottom, I do more or less the same thing. I use a little more glue because these screw covers will actually experience a little bit of mechanical stress, unlike the top screen cover or the top screw covers, which shouldn't really be ever touched again. So I'll usually use a little more glue. Just a little more of a drop than a kiss. know. You stay there. Let it sit on its feet for a second to just give it a chance to dry while I take a drink of water. Go ahead and put my suction cup away. Sort of to prep to wipe down this console. Get a little bit of distilled water, put it on my microfiber cloth. A little bit. If it doesn't bead up and roll off. There you go. Now I can already tell, if you can't tell already, this console is in very good shape. This top glossy piece has very little scratches on it. Has some, not perfect, but it's very good. I think if it wasn't for these scratches here on the bottom shell, I think I would probably give it an excellent score. Almost, just a shame, like, so close yet so far type of deal. I'll get to that in a second, though. Yeah, this console's in really good shape. No, now that I look at it a little closer, this top shell's not as good as I would have originally given it credit for. That makes my decision a little easier. Okay. So, for my condition assessment, which will be the 4 scored categories up here, I'll do condition of the shell, the hardware, the screens, and the actual, like the LCDs themselves. That's why condition of screen is kind of on there twice. So the physical condition of the shell. Before I get too far here, should note that I replaced the charge port. Okay. So let me look at it. So, kind of like what I was saying just a little bit ago, as I shine my light over it, there's quite a bit of scratches and scuffs all over this top shell. Some pretty good visible scratches, wear around the peak of the glossy shell. It's not bad by any means, but if you look at it, you can definitely see these deeper scratches pretty much no matter where I have it. That one in particular is what I keep pointing to. There's a mark right there. A little bit of wear around the hinge side. Wear right there as well. It's interesting as you kind of look at it in the light. These two shell pieces are almost different colors of burgundy. Looking around the edges look okay. There's kind of a discoloration scuff right there. Bottom shell, kind of like what I said, there's like this X scratch and a line across here. Mark right there. Face shell piece. Where did that microfiber cloth go? Just kind of wanted to get around these. I'd say the face shelf piece is perfectly fine. I have no problem with it. Just kind of need to get these screw covers nice and straight. There's a little mark on this one. I can't really tell. That's just leftover glue. And just a little bit of glue. Okay. Man. I'm gonna say very good. This top glossy piece is obviously the worst of it. And really all that's bad about this back shell piece is just this X. Because all of the other portions of it are in really good shape. The face shell pieces are good. I think I would say it was good. I would take it down the good if the back shell had more scratches. I think it's very good. Not excellent, not by any means, but I think saying that it's good is not giving it enough credit. So light scratching on glossy. Edge wear. Scratching on bottom. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. Because especially when you look around these buttons, I know a lot of the times when you get a really worn down console, I guess you can kind of see it in the light, but it's not really that obvious. Around the D-pad especially, there'll be this ring from just the friction of a finger going back and forth, left and right. Same thing around like the A and B button. You can almost vaguely see something similar to that, like around the A button. But if I'm having to go to this extreme to see it, like I can't really see it face on. So I'm not too worried about that. Maybe it's just because the blue consoles, or the midnight blue DSIs, take a lot more abuse. They just show it a lot better, maybe. Or the burgundy ones are just they're just in much better shape. physical condition of the hardware are all the buttons, which I really don't have any problem with. So when I usually pick out shoulder buttons, I match the condition of the shell. So what that means is the R and L button will have scuffs on them, because the rest of the shell has scuffs on them. Other than that, all the other buttons were perfectly fine. Call it scuff. R and L has scuffs. Physical condition of the screens. Now this will be a little difficult because I am in a dusty environment, but there are a couple things. The top screen is in perfectly good shape. There is kind of that like minor scuff that happened when I was trying to get that piece of dust out from under it. But like I can barely see it. Like you can kind of see it up at the top. It's very faint. I can't see it when the console's on. There is a piece of dust right there. I don't recall that causing an issue. No. So that's kind of an endless fight. I can never get all of the pieces of dust out from underneath it. The environment I'm in is just way too dusty. I just get it to a point to where I can't see any of those specks of dust when the console's on. If they're not obstructing a pixel, then I do not care. And on the bottom screen, I'll see there is some scratches right there, one right there, one right there. So I'm going to say this is very good. There are screen protectors on, but that is on the digitizer itself. So light scratches on bottom. My spelling is atrocious. This isn't a spelling test. Light scratches on bottom. Some dust under top. And like I kind of said, like I get as much as I can. I can never get it all. I'll be doing it for the next half an hour, another half an hour, I should say, trying to get dust out from under there. I don't know how people can just raw dog screen protectors on their phone without even a care in the world. I basically need like a clean room where they build satellites in to do stuff like this. Anyway, next is screen condition. Now this is the actual LCDs themselves. I think this is the most important test. But basically what I'm going to look for is turn it on, and I'm going to immediately check the screen temperatures compared to one another, and these are perfect. I need to look at it a little closer. I almost don't want to say it. And I don't think I will. I was thinking, like, I thought I could maybe make out a little bit of screen yellowing around the bottom, but I think we're good there. I think I might just be seeing things. This is what's really hard about it being a subjective test. I keep seeing it, so I have to say that there's very mild screen yellowing on the bottom. I hate saying it because that would have taken an otherwise excellent set of screens down a peg, but I every time I'm turning this display on, I'm seeing just at the very fringes of the edge, just a little bit of yellow. Okay, so 2, 4, 6, 8. We're smack right at the bottom of the very good category. Very good indeed. Today is the 27th. Holy crap. So I'll do the Wi-Fi here in a little bit, but that is pretty much it. This console is good to go. I need to do my final condition score here. Or the little video I do for that. Grab the other piece of paper. And sort of get stuff out of my way. Neat.